power wire goes right into the factory groove. We have to run the wire over on through this side. Once you get the wire run up through the floor sill, what we found to be the best is to come up through here, pull out this pocket. How you get the pocket out, you remove the little rubber sill here, and behind it is a couple screws, two. This will unsnap. Of course, you have to drop down the glove box. Up in here is a nice factory wiring harness to zip tie it to, and then it'll snake up behind the radio. Once there, you can pull the radio out and we can attach our wiring harness. Let's prep our FD2 harness. We're going into the car. First thing I like to do is remove all this tape. There's usually a seam somewhere that you can get to. On this harness, there's a constant 12 volts, the 2 data wires, and all 8 of the speaker wires, and they Y out of this little junction here. What I do is I remove all of this heat shrink so that I can cut this portion out but leave it intact, and then I put new heat shrink over it. You can also depin power and ground here, slide them out, remove the wire from this part of it, and then slide it back in place. Comes out. Flush cutters, make sure you cut the right side and reinstall the pin, and it sinks in there about 1/8 of an inch, so you don't have anything to worry about that wire exposed to anything. For the 2 data wires, basically the same process. Remove the heat shrink off of here and cut out the harness. Then we're done with this, just throw it away. And this one is the one that gets confusing because you have the wires so close to the end here, so just pay attention and cut off this plug here. Repeat it the next 8 times. Once you get the harness plugged in and all connected up, put the front of the radio back on. Leave the pocket off right now, just in case you have to get back in there. No reason to make any more work than necessary. That means the amplifiers are all set. They're in place, firmly secured. Fuse holder is mounted to the battery and the wire is zip tied up in place. That means it's time to set up the amplifiers. You're gonna do one at a time. We're gonna start with the 4-channel and then we'll move on to the mono block. That means we're gonna unplug the mono block for right now. We also wanna get our lighting and everything out of the car, all our seat covers and all that, because we're gonna be closing the doors and making it quiet for it to do its testing. But let's head over to the bench and we'll walk you through the instructions to set this thing up. Now when you get a car into the install bay, the first thing you wanna do is take your tape measure and measure the seat position. Do this before you do anything. Measure from the knee buster, not the steering wheel. Don't measure anything to the steering wheel because the steering wheel can move and it can screw things up. So go to things that are permanent, the top of the dash, the knee buster, and measure from the knee buster to the front of the seat, from the floor up, from the knee buster to the butt of the seat here, from the top of the dash to the top of the seat. If there's any lines in the seat, in this case there's a line in the center, measure to that. Measure from the headrest up, so you put the headrest back in place. Get all these measurements, take as many as you want, so that when you're done, you can line the seat back up to where it was, do all your DSP testing, set up your microphones, and make all your adjustments. It's exactly where it was when it came in, and it'll be exactly the same place when it goes to leave, because you're going to move the seat around. Slide it forward, slide it back, move it up, move it down to run your wiring. Maybe put an amp under the seat. In the box, you should still have this cool strap right here and your microphone. Don't lose these things. The best thing to do is put them back in your box after you've done all your unboxing. This is the strap that's going to go over the headrest. There is a slight setup process to it that we like to do. This is to hold the wiring in place. We like to go through it, and then this sits underneath it like this, and you pull it and you end up with this. Then you take it over and you set it in the car on the headrest, facing straight up as possible. Once in the car, it should look just like this. We're looking at it from the back seat. Then plug the wire into this area here on the amplifier. That is your mic input. What you're gonna need access to is this guy right here. This is going to be the on-off stop-start button. The next step is to make sure your gains are all the way down, which is the one thing we did right at the beginning. That's why we set those up. To do this test, they have to be all the way down. If they're not all the way down, this is not gonna work. The reason for that is the amplifier has a digital input. If it senses any clipping, any distortion, or anything like that, it's going to totally screw up the process. So gains need to be down. You're gonna turn them up once we're done, and it's already EQ'd. Close all the windows in the car, turn off the engine, turn off the HVAC. Make sure you're in a quiet area, essentially. It says in most cases, bi-amp switch will be off. In this case, it is gonna be on because we are using bi-amping. Start the pink noise track. you're going to need a pink noise track. You can get all the test tones that you're going to need to do this on Kicker's website. That's what the QR code is for, so you can go there and download all the tracks. I download them all to my laptop and then store them in Dropbox so that I can access them on my phone. I have my pink noise on my phone. One thing I like to do is scroll down and put my phone in night mode or sleep mode. Therefore, I won't get all my text messages, my phone won't ring, I won't get any of that stuff. Because if you do, you're gonna have to start the process all over again. Start the pink noise. Set the pink noise volume to a level above conversational, slightly loud, using your audio source's volume control. Begin the auto setup by quickly pressing the key activation buttons. Once initialized, you will hear repeated tones, beep, beep, which indicates you must exit the vehicle and close the doors. You will have 10 seconds until the process begins. Once it starts, you're gonna hear all kinds of beeping, static, fun, just all these random noises. That's part of the setup process. But in the background, you need to have that pink noise playing. That's the only thing it doesn't provide for you. Once the auto setup is complete, you will hear happy music. It goes doo 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 doo, and you're done. That's it. That's all it takes. Now this process could take anywhere between, let's say, 2 minutes to 10 minutes. Let's get back in the truck. A couple things that are not in the instructions. One, if it has auto lights like this one does, make sure you turn them off. You don't need your headlights on while everything is going on outside the truck. Two, go into the radio, make sure that your bass and treble are all set to 0. The other thing we want to do is go into balance and fader and fade it all the way to the front, because that is the only signal we're going to be feeding our amplifier. Rear is not going to be part of this EQ'd setting because we're going full active front. We also like to turn off any of the speed compensation, volume. Just turn all that crap off. If it has any form of seat positioning or anything like that, see what your options are. Driver, all seats. If it has an all seat selection, just leave it for all seats. If it has an off, just select off. The other thing you want to do is, while you're playing the pink noise at a normal listening level, is put your ear to all the speakers and make sure they're actually playing. That'll get you a fail if not. Turn it up to a above conversation. Make sure the doors are unlocked. We'll grab our test button. That's the sound we're looking for. Now it's gonna start its little thing. And that's the happy noise we're looking for. Right now you'll notice there's no sound. And then there's sound. If everything went according to plan, which that happy tone usually means, we should have a EQ'd, nice sounding, imaged perfect system. Hop back in, we'll play one of our test songs just to test it before we head on to the next part. Naturally, one of the cool things you can do is turn on and off that EQ to see what before and after would be. It is a really cool demo to do, so you can hear it on and off and let the customer decide, or yourself for that matter, decide what they like. Now keep in mind you have those dip switches to turn off time alignment and equalization, so if one of them is not working for you, you can turn them off independently. Most people decide to keep them on. It sounds really nice. Let's set the gains. For setting gains, you need some noises, you need some test tones and whatnot. This amplifier, you can't pull the speakers on it, like they're connected, so the speakers are going to be playing. So playing like a 1K test tone is a bad idea. Plus it's a factory radio, which makes it even a worse idea. Kicker on their website has a bunch of test tones to choose from, and the test tone I like to use is for the new key LOC, the key lock. It's a gain match track for that. It's a 20 to 20 sweep. Now, the nice thing about a sweep is obviously it's not going to stay on that one frequency and just bake all day. It sucks. In the instructions, turn the volume up to 3/4 on this, which is like 24-25, and we're gonna play the sweep. I have Fernando sitting in the front seat. He's gonna press play for me, because there again, I still don't want to camp out. There's 2 lights on the amplifier, here and here. And what we're gonna do is turn the knob until those come on, and then kick it down a little bit until they're gone. We don't want those on there. So we'll start adjusting our tracks. Channel 1 and 2 are the tweeters. So you have to wait for that high frequency in order to hear them. See, it's on. We'll kick it back a bit. We'll move on to the next one. Okay, Fernando, cut it. And that's it, the gains are set. Let's move on to setting up the 501. Let's head over to the bench and talk about how that's gonna happen. Grabbing the quick setup guide out of the box for the 500. Naturally, we wanna make sure the gains are turned down just like we did, but this setup is going to be a lot different how we set up the 204. First thing we're gonna do is gain match. So unlike the previous amplifier, we did the gain at the end, we're gonna do the gain at the beginning now. Make sure you scan that QR code on the box and download the 501 gain match tracks. That's important. We're gonna do the same thing in the sense we are gonna turn our volume up to 3/4. We'll turn it back up to that 25 where we were. Press and hold the key button for 3 seconds until the gain match LED flashes quickly 3 times. Wait for the thing to flash 3 times before you lift the button. If it doesn't, it's not going to work. Start the gain match track. The amplifier is going to mute the output, so it doesn't matter whether your speakers are hooked up or not, it's going to mute the output to them. With the gain knob all the way down, slowly turn the input gain clockwise until you see the gain match LED light up, then turn it down. Just like we did before, turn it up, once it's on, turn it down. It's gonna play the same style sweep track, so you have to wait till that cycle comes back around. That's what a sweep track does. So it'll go, you know, you heard that whoop, whoop. It's gonna take a minute, but there again, don't camp out. We'll have Fernando controlling the volume for us. When you're done, and it has been set, quickly press the key button, exit gain match mode. Now you're gonna start the logarithm mode. Press and hold the key button for 5 seconds until the gain match LED goes solid. All right, so this is important. Before it blinked 3 times, now it's gonna go solid. Make sure it goes solid and just doesn't blink 3 times. It's going to blink 3 times. Keep holding it until it goes solid. Then release the button, start the 501 sweep track. While the key logarithm is running, the gain match LED will flash slowly. This process may take up to 1.5 minutes. After the sweep finishes, the gain match LED will go dark while it is calculating the corrections. This takes about 30 seconds. If the logarithm runs through successfully, the gain match LED will begin to flash rapidly for 1.5 seconds. If the logarithm fails, the gain match LED will go solid. In the event of failure, just go to the troubleshooting section of the owner's manual. Let's head back into the car. One thing I do need to do, I'm gonna be unplugging the signal. Because of that, the remote turn on DC offset isn't gonna be feeding the key. I have to go in and turn on that DC offset so that it'll turn this amplifier on when we turn on the car, and then when we're done, we'll turn that back off because it's getting fed by that amplifier. Hold the button. We got our flashes. Turn up our gain. See our gain there is blinking. Turn it back down. Wait a second. All right, we got it. Hit the button. Now we'll move on to the next track. Press and hold. We got our flashes. All right, solid. Now it's gonna blink slowly, so we can see here. The light went out. And we get our quick succession of blinks. That means that this is all set up. At this point, you can apply your bass boost, adjust your crossover if you need to. I like bass boost, so I'm gonna add some of that in there. Obviously, playing some music will be the best way to set up how much bass boost you want. I'm gonna turn off my DC offset and plug back in my highs amplifier before I forget. Cool. If you'd like to see what the inputs and outputs look like, we have videos on both the kicker key highs amp and the sub amp showing you input and output curves, how they look on an RTA. If you're curious more about that, I'll put links to both of them in the description down below. Now we need to get this subwoofer enclosure in the car so we can finish this thing up and hear some bass. Oh, one other thing, to control the subwoofer. If you have an F150, this is a great place to mount your volume knob. All right, let's hear this all together. We have bass, turn that up. Already hear it already. We got our highs. We brought the fader back in so the rear speakers are now playing. Let's just turn it up. We got plenty of bass. It is definitely nice. I like it so far. Let me go back and I want to hear some vocal to mix it all together and finish it off. Yeah, they're living the good life. I'm happy. Now I'm gonna bring Fernando in and let him listen to it and see what his take on it is, and then we'll compare notes. All right, Fernando, what do you think?
Amazing.
One word answer, amazing. I'll go a little bit more than that, and you can agree or disagree with me. I'm gonna go with the amazing, but the amount of power you get out of these is just blows your mind. Yeah. I mean, every time I do one of these, I still am like, gee, I cannot believe something that small puts out that much power. And I own the set. I mean, I physically own a set of these in Haley's car. Yeah. So I know what they sound like. I know what they can do. It's impressive. It's definitely impressive.
But it's just like when you hear it again in a different car, you're like, Oh wow.
Yeah.
It actually sounds good, you know, it's like...
Because you look at it and you think, they should have made that like twice the size. I think if it was bigger, people would be like all over it. Fear not, my friends.
It's like, hey, perfect. Under the seat, behind the seat.
In the dash.
In the dash. Whatever you're gonna put it, it's plenty of space for that.
Even though it's 2 amplifiers, this is like the perfect little 5-channel amplifier. If you want to get into DSP, you want to get into EQ, you don't want to learn all the ins and outs of how it's supposed to. You don't want to learn any of that. You just want it to...
You just press the button.
Do its thing. This is awesome. You'll get into a car. And the cool thing is you can hear it with it and without it, like I was doing. And it's like so sweet.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to demo it like that to the customer so that they can get... I know what you're thinking. You should show the surprise. Not going to, because he probably doesn't want to be on camera. Most people don't want to be on camera, guys. Let's end the show.
On to the next one, guys.
You guys have a great night as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.